In this video, I'm going to be showing you exactly how I scale Shopify brands to over $1 million per month using Meta ads. And if you are a Shopify brand owner and you are at or below 100K per month in revenue, there's a high likelihood that you can actually scale a lot further than you currently are. But you've been misled by all these different talking heads on YouTube and all these gurus overcomplicating media buying. And so by the end of this video, you're gonna learn exactly how I scale Shopify brands to over $1 million per month using Meta ads, using a very simplified strategy that only takes 30 minutes a day to set up and run correctly. Now, if you're wondering who I am and why I'm qualified to talk about this, here's a screenshot of an account that I scaled last November to spending $222,000 per month and generating almost $900,000 or over $900,000 in revenue. And we are missing some attributed revenue here, and the total revenue generated was closer to over $1 million. So in this video, if you stick around until the end, make sure you do, because I'm gonna show you step by step exactly how you can set up this 30-minute start and scale strategy inside of your Meta ad account to start scaling further today. So let's go ahead and get started with this blueprint. So step one with scaling your Meta ads. We break this down into 4 simple steps, and it's really that easy. First step is gonna be identifying conditions for scale. In order for you to scale, a lot of people think scale is difficult, but it's actually quite easy. All scale is just amplifying favorable business conditions. We're getting more conditions or more favorable conditions, or amplifying the volume of the favorable conditions we're currently getting. I feel like I said favorable conditions maybe like 10 times. Long story short, if we want to scale, we need to first create the environment that is good for scale. And in order to do that, we have to define what constitutes scaling. So if you don't already know this, and I'm honestly shocked by the amount of brand owners and founders that I've run into over the last 6 years in digital marketing that actually don't know their metrics and don't know their numbers, you need to understand your numbers. So I'm going to link below a sheet underneath this video that's a very simplified KPI sheet that's going to allow you to understand a few different metrics. The most important metric here is understanding what is your break-even cost per purchase, and then also setting your profit target cost per purchase. Now, if you're a business that's of a little bit of a higher size, I would recommend that you set a target new customer acquisition cost. But if you are a bit of a smaller brand, then you can just set a blended acquisition cost target. So for us, you're gonna wanna set a target CPA, because the target CPA is the number that we're gonna strive to hit inside of our Meta ad account. And as long as we're hitting that number, we're gonna be able to scale our account. So identify the conditions for scale, understand what your profit target CPA target is, or cost per acquisition, using the sheet below. And then once you understand what your profit target cost per purchase is, you can then move on to step 2. So in step 2, we're gonna move into the actual ad account. Now, the setup that I run, and I've been running for the last several years, and I've scaled accounts all the way to spending over $1 million per month, is a consolidated account setup with 1 CBO campaign per business objective. So 1 campaign per product, 1 campaign per product category, 1 campaign for running sales versus leads. If you are a fashion account with multiple SKUs, try and identify the product category or product alone that is generating at least 50% of your brand's total revenue. And trust me, guys, I've worked on accounts, high SKU fashion accounts. There is almost always 1 product or category generating at least 50% of the total sales. So find that product, and then that is the product you're gonna build your account around. Now, for those brands out there that have a smaller SKU count, let's say you only have maybe 9 to 10 SKUs, this is gonna be a lot easier to build your account out of, because it's very obvious what your hero SKU is. So we're gonna do a consolidated CBO setup, 1 CBO campaign per business objective. Now, the actual setup inside the CBO campaign is as follows. There's only ever at most 2 to 4 active ad sets at a time. So we're gonna have 1 winners ad set with 3 to 5 of our top performing post IDs. So in other words, 3 to 5 of our top performing creatives are gonna go inside our winners ad set. This winners ad set is responsible for creating a projectable and consistent CPA in our account by making sure that at any given moment, we have anywhere from 80 to 90% of our spend funneling through our top performers. You're gonna eliminate a lot of fluctuations in terms of performance, because you're keeping the account setup simple. And on top of that, you're also funneling spend through creatives that you know produce good results and predictable results because presumably they've been on for a long time in the history of your account. So to create the winner's ad set, go into your ad account, filter by the maximum time frame, and then what you're going to do is filter by amount spent and take your best performing creatives with the highest spend, and then those will go into your winner's ad set. Now, if you don't yet have enough winning ads, if you only have maybe one or two, you can still create the winner's ad set. You really only need one winning ad to be able to create this campaign. Now, on top of that, we're going to have 1 to 2 creative test ad sets inside of this winner's ad set. So as you can see here, I've got my winner's ad set on the bottom. And then every time I want to test a new creative, it always gets done inside of this CBO campaign. So I launch a new ad set, which contains my new set of creatives. Now, I don't follow the 3-2-2 method. I don't follow dynamic versus flexible ads. I honestly think none of that really matters. What really matters is the quality of the creative that you're inputting into the system. In my opinion, there's negligible performance impact from doing it in a 3-2-2 dynamic creative test versus just individual ads. So set it up however you want. Just make sure that you're testing quality creatives and you're producing really good ideas. And I'll do a separate video on how to actually create and what constitutes a really good creative idea. But for now, we're going to launch one ad set on top of our winner's ad set. And by running it in this setup, we are now forcing our new creative tests to have to earn spend. In a CBO setup, Meta allocates spend based on the ad set or where the best opportunities are. Which ad set is most likely to generate the best possible outcomes for your business, or in other words, to achieve the conversion objective which you set, which if you want purchases, hopefully is purchase. Now, because we have a proven ad set and an unproven ad set, the only way the unproven ad set will get spend is if it's more likely to produce better business conditions and more business success than your winner's ad set. And that is why we test in this method. And this is how you can eliminate over 80% of wasted ad spend just by testing within one CBO. Now you can run 1 to 2 creative tests per week. So I would recommend you're doing at least 1 to 2 creative tests per week, and you can test multiple ad sets at the same time. I like to limit the total number of ad sets because it makes it a lot easier to understand what the impact of changing our input, or in other words, how easy it is to measure what new variables I'm introducing to the campaign are leading to certain changes. So for example, the more variables you input, right, the more difficult it becomes to determine which individual variable is responsible for producing a change in the output. So if I test 9 things at a time versus testing 1 thing at a time, it's gonna be very difficult to understand which of those 9 things is making a change in the result compared to if I just do 1 test. So 1 winner's ad set, 1 to 2 creative tests per week. Depending on the results, you can pause creative tests, and if creative tests go well, you can take the winners of those creative tests and you insert them into the winner's ad set. Now, let's say you run your creative tests for a week and they're not getting any spend. You do not need to force spend into those creatives unless you want to waste ad spend and burn money. Feel free to do that. But if you are trying to be as efficient as possible, if tests are not getting spent by the end of 7 days, cut those tests and move on to a completely new creative idea. I'm going to do another video on how to read those creative tests so that way you can actually make use out of the data that you get and you can iterate off of those creative tests. But for now, just know that if a creative batch test and you launch a new ad set and it's not getting spend, just turn it off and move on to your next set of tests. Now, that is going to be it for step 2. Now let's move on to step 3. So how do we actually scale within this consolidated one campaign CBO setup? Very simply, we scale the account by 20% every single day if yesterday's new customer CPA is at target. If you're a smaller brand, again, if your CPA is at target, then we're going to scale the account by 20% every single day. So I created this flow chart. You guys can take a screenshot of this. It's very easy to understand. As you can see, if yesterday's CPA is at target, we scale the campaign budget by 20%. If the last 3 days, or if yesterday is not at target and we check the last 3 days and it's not at target, next, we're going to check if our MER is profitable. Okay, MER stands for media efficiency ratio. So we're going to see if our total revenue against our total ad spend, or our blended ROAS, is profitable. If you're a smaller brand, you can just check if you're profitable. Now, if you are profitable, do not touch the budget. Remember, we want profit. The whole point of scaling is to get more profit. If we are getting profit, even if our ad account is not saying that, leave the campaigns on because we're getting profit. So we don't want to touch the budget. However, if we're not profitable, then we can go ahead and lower the campaign budget by 20%. And that is the very stupidly simple way that checking your account should take literally like 10 to 15 minutes. And because we're doing one campaign per business objective, it becomes very easy to decide which budget, or actually you don't even have to decide, right? Because you don't have anything really to choose from. You're running one campaign per business objective, so there's only one budget that you need to touch and control. You follow this flowchart. If yesterday's at target, great. We scale that campaign budget by 20%. If you are starting at $100 a day, if you are hitting target every single day for 30 days, you can scale your ad account past $10,000 per day. Hopefully you understand compound interest and the power of compounding, because that is how quickly that you can scale. And if you're not at target, you check the last 3 days to see if this is just a trend or a one-off bad day. Then you're going to check if you're profitable. If you are, you don't touch the budget. It could just be a bad day in terms of attribution. And if you're not profitable, you lower the campaign budget by 20%. Okay, step 4, test 1 to 2 creatives per week. Now it goes without saying, in 2024 especially, media buying is becoming more and more about creative and less about the actual media buying. It's becoming less about testing audiences and testing different interests and doing lookalikes, and it's becoming more about the creative. As Meta loses visibility on what people are doing in the platform, or not in the platform, outside of the platform, it's going to become increasingly more important for your creative to resonate with people and to give Meta higher quality inputs than ever before. So you need to be testing 1 to 2 creatives every single week. And when you're testing creatives, make sure that you are testing net new ideas. So don't do one creative test that's literally like changing the color of the background or changing this one piece of text in the hook. Make sure they are net new ideas. You can be testing different desires, different problems, different pain points. You can try speaking to a different angle, speaking to a different sub-demographic. Whatever your testing framework is, make sure you're testing at least 1 to 2 creatives every single week. And that is how you're going to be able to improve the efficiency of your campaign so you can spend more. When you're running this consolidated setup, because we are getting rid of basically any media buying hacks or audience targeting or anything like that, the main way we improve campaign performance outside of things you're doing on the landing page and things like that is by introducing new creative. So the purpose of doing our creative tests is so that way we can improve the efficiency, so that way we can spend more. So if you are coming into your account, right, and every single time you're trying to scale or you can't break past a certain level of spend, that is a clear-cut sign you need to introduce new creative into your campaign so you can improve efficiency. So just make a mental note. As you're going through this checklist every single day, it should only be taking you about 30 minutes again. If you see after a couple of weeks you can't crack a certain level of spend, or you see every time I raise my campaign budget with my current portfolio of ads, I get stuck and my CPA increases, reduce the campaign budget back to the last budget that it was actually working at target, and do not increase until you introduce new creative and improve the efficiency so that way you can spend more. And that is the purpose of doing creative tests per week, okay? 1 to 2 creative tests per week, so that way you can improve the efficiency of the campaign and you can spend more. That is literally it, especially if you have someone making creative for you. The actual media buying inside of the Meta ad account should literally take you 30 minutes or less, right? It should take you 30 minutes or less to check the campaign, see if you're at target. If you're not, you know what to do. And you introduce new creative tests so you can improve efficiency so you can spend more. If you're at target, literally just keep scaling. Keep scaling the budget. You can scale accounts to $10,000 per day with like 3 to 5 creatives. You don't need 20 to 30 creatives every single week and this massive library of ads. You can literally scale accounts to 10K a day with 3 to 5 really strong ads. You just need to be vigilant with scaling the account 20% every single day. And people say 20% is too slow, and that's because they're not scaling the account every day. If you're at target, just scale and leave the account. It should take you 5 minutes. If you're at target, just scale. Don't do any creative tests. Don't do anything like that. As long as your campaign is hitting target, you scale that sucker by 20%. And this is the fastest way to scale accounts. And this is literally the exact blueprint that I used to scale this campaign to $200,000 in spend and almost $1 million in in-platform attributed revenue at a 4 return on ad spend. It was literally just 20% every single day if I'm at target. And sometimes I would even do 2x or 3x budget raises if I'm at target. Again, if you are at target, that's all scale is just magnifying favorable business conditions. So as long as you are creating those conditions, scale the account. And that, again, is literally the blueprint of how you can scale your ad account and your Shopify brand to over $1 million per month with Meta Ads. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you got some value out of it, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.